Hello, good to see you here on my Patreon. It's been a minute since I've dropped something of length. I've been thinking hard about fully diminished. The sound, the scales, the chords, what it is, how to apply it. It's one of the things that I have found has really taken my playing from understanding the pentatonic scale and basic major, minor, dominant stuff to really starting to wield some true gravity and just affect the music differently as a bass player and as a soloist. Symmetrical sounds like diminished and whole tone are sort of the doorway into that heightened emotive quality that classical composers, film scoring, and the deepest jazz improvisers possess, sort of those notes between the notes. All right, so I've included a class outline here, so if you're following along, this is this part, build it up to break it down. And it's sort of the way in my clinics that I've been teaching people to find the diminished sound. Let's say maybe you right now. I know if I've got one friend in here who probably is like, what is this? Let's start with major. C major. Keeping track of my chord tones here. So it's our first, third, fifth, and seventh. And for the major, we've got root, third, fifth, seventh, completely unaltered. It's that heartbreaking melancholia of the major sound. Cool. So the way we get to diminished is I start systematically flattening the intervals. So the seventh will flatten first. So from B, we go to B flat. Yeah. I often refer to major as kind of the Willy Wonka. And then when we flat this seventh, I think of it like the Beatles' Birthday. That dominant sound, that Saturday night sound. Okay, so now let's flat the third. I'm going to change my fingering a little bit. This is like what I like to call the pointer finger minor. In a lot of positions, it's a nice fingering, pointer finger on the root. Here we have C. I also like to make people aware of sort of the different hemispherical options for the same notes. So if this is our equator here, this 8th fret of the E string, I've got one fingering that starts on my pointer finger, and then another that starts on my pinky, kind of going diagonally that way. Let's flatten some more intervals. So now we're going to flatten the 5th. This is what they call half-diminished, or minor 7 flat 5. So you have your root, your flat third, your flat 5th, your flat 7th, and this is half-diminished, which at this point for a lot of us, we start to wonder, okay, well, what is the difference between half-diminished and fully diminished, and what does it mean, and why am I always confused when I see this chord in a chart? I know I felt that way. So we're going to do one more flattening, and it's going to end up being a double flattening. We're going to go back, and that flat 7, we're going to double flat it. So instead of C, E flat, F sharp, B flat, it's going to be C, E flat, F sharp, A. Just for a minute, let's appreciate the difference in those sounds. There, but now we're there. So we have our root, our flat third, our tritone or flat 5th, and then this natural 6th. So congrats, you've arrived at the fully diminished sound. Now on basses and guitars, the first fingering a lot of us get into, I like to think of as being diagonal. So you have your pointer finger and your pinky, the distance of a minor third. And then you move up to that tritone and do the same thing. The cool thing about diminished is that it's really just minor thirds on minor thirds on minor thirds. Let's take a second. Here's C going up a minor third. Okay, well, if I put my pointer finger on that new note and go up a minor third, there's a certain symmetry at play. So we have 4 minor thirds available. So this diagonal thing, it's all right, but I always kind of felt like it left me perched on a cliff. And now I'm up here, but maybe I need to be back down there very quickly or something. So I've developed a positional approach. I'm sure I, stole it from Gary Willis or a few other bass players that I revere. But it starts with my ring finger on that root, ring, pointer, pinky, middle. This top zone is more slap ramp than credible notes there. But you saw what I was up to. I kept moving that pinky finger 3 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 3 again, or 15. So it's the same shape, just planing. So C diminished is E flat diminished, is F sharp diminished, is A diminished, is C diminished, in both directions, forever. And it's amazing. It's such a wonderful thing to tap into, this symmetry. So I'm keeping it horizontal for just getting it into your eyes here. But all of these relationships are happening horizontally, vertically, diagonally, all over the XY axis of the neck. So I encourage you to explore the literal vertical and horizontal aspects. If you've checked out any of the Lydian chromatic stuff I talk about, sometimes I'll talk about approaching a set of chords vertically or horizontally, but it ends up being 2 different worlds there: the actual geography of the instrument and then sort of the approach to outlining chords or just blanketing them. Ooh, that was well said. All right, so now that you know that all diminished is the same, we can talk about some context for actually using this sound. I've got the Boomerang phrase sampler here. It's one of my #1 practicing and writing buddies. Great. Let's go a little bit more rangy there. Ooh, you know what? We'll do this. Cool. So, C minor. Try to keep it to the pentatonic. So you'll really hear my diminished departures. And it's that simple. I'll find the one shape, look up a minor third, and then I'll look down a tritone. So I'm just kind of always hitching a ride on minor thirds and tritones. And then you artfully resolve, which is part of the lifelong quest. And this isn't even the scales or anything, this is just the arpeggio. And you can dice it up all sorts of different ways, and just if I'm playing bass, I guess I am. It just starts to expand the container a little bit. Now let's stick with the C diminished arpeggio that we have. But now we're going to do it over a D7 environment. So let me cook that up. This is what I like to call the Debussy chord here on 6-string bass. You get the super low root, major third, flat at 7, ninth on top, right? Big fat Debussyan thing. And while I'm on it, this is tangential, but taking anything, this dominant chord, and moving it in minor thirds back to your starting point, albeit an octave higher or lower, is a really cool use of the symmetrical stuff without necessarily having it be beholden to being diminished. Could be anything we've talked about. Wow. I know. I don't mean to be so whimsical. So, part of what I'm up to there is, instead of always starting on the lowest note of C, E flat, F sharp, A, sometimes I'll start on the high note and alternate. And it really starts to break up the sound and make it feel less cut and paste, like, you know, little cookie cutouts of Christmas trees, the same sound just ploddingly planed along. So it's something my friend Eric Sales taught me to kind of transcend. Always mix it up. A slight bit of creativity goes a long way. All right, cool. So you might be thinking, this sounds great, John. And you'd be right, because the notes we're playing, C, is the flat 7 of D7. F sharp, the major third. A, the 5th. These are the foundational chord tones outside of the root. We don't get the root. We get an even more exciting option. We get the flat 2, flat 9, half step above the root. It's got that kind of Eastern flair, which you can that's a way you can think about using diminished over dominant chords to kind of get some other colors and expressions going. 8-note octatonic full scales. That's right, 8 unique tones, 9 makes the octave octatonic scales. They provide some unique opportunities, and in this case, symmetrical ones. And it ends up being really easy to put together from a Lego perspective. So we have the 4 points of our diminished constellation. We have C, E flat, F sharp, A. And whether we're doing whole half diminished or half whole diminished, they won't change. So keep those buoys in your diminished C in the front of mind as we go through this. And so to arrive at these full scales, we're basically going to superimpose or add on a second diminished arpeggio to the existing one, starting either a whole step above it, whole half, or a half step above it, half whole. And that goes the same in the other direction too. I always like to say I like to reverse engineer everything and think in a very 360 way with harmony. So the same could be said. We're on C, moving down a half step to B is one of the pathways. Moving down a whole step to B flat is one of the pathways. But let's get really into it. The first one we'll do is whole half. So we know C diminished and the other three relatives that are born from the same sound. Now we're going up a whole step, working in D diminished. So let's just look at that on its own for a second. So D, F, A flat, B. Right? And so now we've got, they're right next to each other. C, whole step to D, E flat, whole step to F, F sharp, whole step to A flat, A, whole step to B, C. And it's just diminished, 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 whole step. Then from the second point, E flat, diminished, whole step. Then from the third point, F sharp, whole step. Then from the fourth point, A, whole step, and then we're cool. For the sake of comparison, let's immediately do half whole. So instead of D, we're now going to be doing D flat, which gives us D flat, E, G, and B flat. But I was surfing up one, coming back down the other. Getting over a cold here. And then up a half step, go to the second point, E flat. Up a half step, go to the third point, F sharp. Up a half step, go to the fourth point, A. Go up a half step. Back home. So it's that same core four, and it's either buttressed in whole steps or half steps. That can't believe I played that correctly. Cool, right? Not so complex. And at this point, we're still like just dumping the Legos out on the floor. Certainly we got into some application over the arpeggio. But here with the scales, we have them. We can use them over the same contexts, but they don't end up being mutually exclusive. Let's get a look at how to use those full scales over those C minor and D7 grooves. All right, starting off regular minor stuff. And the way I like to think of this is a whole half diminished, so C up a whole step, and then E flat up a whole step, and so on. I like to think of this one as like a minor shape, so I do 1, 2, flat, 3, 4, and then it's that same structure starting on the tritone. So it starts to sound pretty out, right? Give a tritone, flat 6, natural 6, major 7, super clashy. here's D7. And if we play C, whole half diminished, just like we were, due to the symmetrical nature of it, it ends up being D half whole. Allow me to show you. I threw a note in there that's not in there. It fits, right? So what's up with that? You can think of this in that sort of Lydian chromatic superimpositional way. You're using whole half diminished from your flat 7. Cool. The fingering for half whole, I think of as being this almost little dominant type cell. Here's my kind of tonal nexus of D and F sharp, and it's surrounded by the flat 9 and the sharp 9. So root and third surrounded by both 9s is giving us the sort of altered tinge. And then you do the same fingering from the tritone. You get your tritone 5th, natural 6, flatted 7th. So that's kind of a cool way to use diminished over dominant chords and get that funky flavor going. One of my favorite places to use whole half diminished is over minor 2-5-1s. So they often have a minor 7, flat 5, so half diminished 2 chord, and then some sort of flat 9 or altered dominant chord resolving to a minor chord. So let's cook something like that up real quick. Let's see here. Oh yeah. That works. Good job, John. So you're gonna have to shift gears with me a little bit because I made this in A, but it'll be symmetrical. You gotta resolve back into that G chord, but we got an A minor, D7, and G minor. The diminish, that's A diminished, but blanketing, horizontally moving across the 2 and the 5. And then I just adjust when I get back to the root, which is the G minor. And then the full scale. Now that you've got a foundation for the sound, the arpeggios, and both scales, we can start to talk about some different harmonic functions. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in this little diminished ascent as we go. So C major, C sharp diminished in between the cracks, D minor, E flat diminished, the second point, E minor, and here we perform what I like to call a quality change, where we make that diminished, tonicizing F major here, F sharp diminished, G dominant, A flat diminished, A minor, B flat diminished, B minor 7 flat 5, make it fully diminished, and then you're back home, or C minor minor, or whatever way you worked your way up that harmonization. So let me try to play through that with a little less talking and some harmonic wonderfulness. So it sort of has this kind of Beethoven-y, Bach, and with the quality changes that happen in there, almost Beatles-y vibe going on. So there's two quality changes. It's the 3, which goes from a minor 3 to that fully diminished vibe. And then we had the 7, which starts off with the minor 7 flat 5, and then eventually becomes fully diminished as well. All right, so this is something that we could wax on further in a lesson, and certainly when I start doing the clinic version of this, there'll be lots of room for discourse, but I wanted to get these thoughts down, and I wanted to share this with you guys. I am really grateful for you signing up for this, and I hope that you're going back and checking out some of the older stuff and making some of the things that are part of my bag part of your bag. So thanks for spending some time with me and some energy on this, and congratulate yourself on focusing on art and music, and we'll see you again sometime soon. This is sort of stage 1 of this. I'm going to include whatever stage I have the PDF in, and when I update it and as things progress, I'll keep you updated. All right, happy practicing.